What is up, my people? I'm Marcel and welcome back to the Modern Filmmaker. So a few days ago I uploaded a short little edit from a recent trip I took to San Francisco.
Summer's calling.
And one thing about movie magic is if you do it right, then most people will never realize that you did it. Which is kind of disheartening because you spend all this time doing these cool little things that nobody ever notices. And there's a couple things in my edit that most people will probably never notice happen, but I wanted to show you guys how I pulled them off in Davinci Resolve. So here we are in Davinci Resolve 16, and the first clip that we're going to be going over is this push-through shot of the camera going through the window, seemingly kind of into the sky. And of course you might think that I just did a simple pan down while we were in the air and pushed it into the window, but that's not exactly how I did this. And then the next shot is the shot where it's just my eye and kind of the reflection of the sky kind of blazing through in my eye, kind of just, you know, portraying that I'm watching the clouds go by. I don't know. And first things first, I've got all my clips here in the media pool, and I've got them all with in and out points. I always set markers. You know, you just right click in and then go where you don't need the clip anymore, and let's say right when it pushes through the window we don't need it anymore, so right click, mark out. That way if we drag this clip into a timeline, it'll simply only drag in that portion of the clip, so we don't have to drag it in, then kind of, you know, trim it down while we're editing. And then I've done the same thing with this sky shot of the clouds going by and then it kind of chilling out on this sick horizon view of all these clouds. So first thing, I'm going to right click and create new timeline using selected clip, and double click on that timeline and take us in the editor tab. And from here I will take this pan down of the window, double click, and if I go over this preview window now after I've double clicked on something in the media pool, it gives me the option to either drag in just the video or drag in just the audio, which is super awesome and a super quick way to just drag in your video, because a lot of time I drag in this and then I've got to hold Alt, click on the clip to delink, and then backspace to get rid of that, and that's just a lot of nonsense. Too many steps there. So now we have our beautiful window clip, which now you see the window clip. It's obviously not looking at the sky. We haven't even left the tarmac yet. We're still on the runway. I mean, not even on the runway yet. We're still at the gate. We're still at the gate. And that's when I got this shot, because I figured it would be an easier shot to get while the plane's not moving. No turbulence, no vibrations. I could just get a nice slow-mo shot. This was shot in 120 frames a second. That way I could literally just, and just move my body like that, because it's so hard when you're trying to super slow, like, you know, on the plane, you're like, you know, that doesn't work. That doesn't work very well. So while I'm still on the tarmac, at the gate, I get this shot in super slow-mo, and then later on in this same flight, I got this shot, and this is just in, I think 29.9 frames a second, 4K, just normal shot. So I'm going to go to the color tab, and we're going to do what we came to do. All this will be done in the color tab for the most part. So I'm going to add a new node with Alt S, and then I'll move it to the end. And from here, all I want to do is mask out this window, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this window out of here so the program knows I just want to see the sky behind the window. And that can be done in Fusion in several different ways, but a really quick way to do, if you don't need to do any specific camera tracking, is this way. And I've got this node at the end, and I'm going to use this to mask out this window. So I'll click here. I'll start making my mask as good as I want to, which I want to make it perfect, but for you guys' sake, I will try to just make it quick and dirty. That's what she said. And kind of finish things off right here. Widen this out a little more. And boom. It's a good enough mask for the moment. So if I hit the highlight button, I can see what we have taken out here. And right now it's got the window selected. So of course, if it has the window selected, then how's it going to take out the background? I'll show you. So with this window selected, I'm going to go through and kind of just keyframe the window because I'll need to know where the window is, and so will the program at all times. So in our tracker mode here, I could go back and just do like a track, but I don't think the track's going to go so well. Yeah, that's not going very good. And the one thing about tracking is if you track and the program doesn't get it so right, then you're left with all this super incorrect tracking data. And so in this situation, it's better just to track yourself. So I'm going to go over to the frame button here, which will tell the program if I move this and change something like so, make a keyframe there and remember what I did. So now if I go through and let's say I move this here, here, and here, and kind of get this to where I want it, it'll do all the tracking in between those two keyframes. Boom. So it did a lot of that work for us. So now I can just come through here and let's say right here where it kind of droops down, I can just move that up. Be like, nope, go there instead. You've gone too far. Let's get our lives together. Let's square that up a little bit. And now if we go back, you can see that track is sticking really well. And I'm going to keep going back and doing this. And so that makes things a lot easier, because sometimes, you know, you'll try to use the program to track and then you want to switch over to the frame button and correct what it's done, but then it's got all this crazy tracking information in between keyframes that it made, and it's just better to give it that guideline to begin with. Like let's just do some basic track points, like 2 or 3 or 4, and then you can let the program do the rest in between. And in between, it usually gets pretty good. It's really just when you have a complicated move going on, there's not a lot of contrast for it to tell where the sharp edges are and where objects are, and you do it for a long period of time, that's when the tracker seems to get kind of lost. So if you can minimize the time in between keyframes or in between what it needs to track, then it'll go a lot easier on you. Now we are getting a beautiful track of this window all the way up to here, and now we can kind of go forward. And let's see, I'm going to go pretty far out. Yeah, right there. Don't want to cut off the window. Just want to get it a nice track there. And smoothing this out. And now, if we watch it backwards, oh yeah, that's a nice track right there, people. That's a nice track. So I can go a good bit forward. And once again, this may seem tedious to you, but honestly, just imagine how much you can do with power windows and masking when you get good at them and know what you're doing. It really just takes practice, and then it all becomes kind of like the same. It's like there's not really editing, special effects. Well, special effects do take an exorbitantly more amount of time, but like editing and color grading, to me, it's like, no, might as well do the power windows and do all that. Now it's having kind of a problem, so we can kind of hit this in the middle, drag this down, and shape it out to give it more direction on what it's not doing right. Still a little wonky. Still a little on the wonky side. I think we just need to bring these in and we'll be in better shape. Yep. And then right when that passes and goes out, move these out. now we have a pretty decent track of this window. Not perfect, but decent. And so now that we have the window tracked, ready to go, the mask is set up, all we have to do, I don't think I've explained this before in other videos, but these green indicators on top, as you've already noticed, they're pretty much just the normal connective indicators that say this is the input going to, this is your first adjustment layer. It's kind of easier if you look at the nodes as adjustment layers. And this is going to your first adjustment layer. So make the changes you want to this one, and then Alt S, you can add another one, and it'll add, you know, obviously the green indicators are lined up, and there's another adjustment layer, and so on and so forth. But the blue indicators are for alpha. So there's a lot of cool and crazy, wild, composite type things you can do with the alpha indicators and how you connect them, which I will be getting to very soon. But for now, all you really need to do to set these up with a situation like this is right click within the node screen and add alpha output. Then go to this blue indicator, drag it to the blue output, and voila. We've got the window and then the layer under it right behind it, which is kind of crazy. Very simple, very easy, and we can even check our track and see how dope the track is. That's a pretty good track. It's a pretty good little self-made track there. Not mad at it. So I'm going to go and make this look a little smoother. I'm going to soften this out. That's helped a bunch already. And then I'm going to pull the inside in a little bit, just a tad, not too much, and the outside a little as well. And then from here, we can just invert the power window. On the side of any of these shapes, square, circle, custom, the first indicator to your right, our button, is an invert button, which will just invert your mask, which will give us the exact opposite, and it'll pretty much take out the window that we had masked. So now we have this awesome push through that reveals the window and the clouds just being all awesome behind it. Very cool. So now what's left to do is a little color grading to get this looking right. And I'm going to do this easily by adding a LUT to this node right before the mask. And film looks 2383. Boom. And then I'll make a little adjustment here. Bring up some of those highlights. Just bring it a little more light look to the inside of this window. And then we can even push the rest of it back down. I like it. Yeah, just a little thing, maybe a little more, just like that. And then we'll go to the second clip that's underneath it, and I'll add a LUT to this one here. Film look 2383, bada bing bada boom. And now we have that same feel, but with awesome color grading. And another way to do this, I'm going to go ahead and kind of take a sidebar real quick, because this just is super awesome and super simple and really easy on the computer, and probably how I would do it normally. So if I got rid of the LUTs that are on these two clips, I can come over here to Edit and add an adjustment layer by going to Effects, Adjustment Clip, elongate this so it fits, and now I have a whole adjustment layer over those two. And instead of color grading this entire clip and color grading this entire clip as in the entire frame, now it just can color grade both of them together and not, you know, do all that extra work, if that makes sense. So right click, back to 3D LUTs, film look 2383. Boom. And now we can still go back, and as you see, I have this adjustment on this color grade here without the LUT, and then I can adjust here if I want. So one thing I can do, which is super simple and super awesome, is first of all, I will add a little mid-tone detail. Let's say we want like a cool dreamy look. Give us some more room. Little mid-tone details there. Then add a node. Maybe add some parallel nodes. On this first one, I will go to the qualifier and get these highlights. You know how I like to do the clouds. Y'all know how I like to do it. Yeah, about right there is probably good. That softness. click off the highlight and raise the gain in the primaries bars. And then in this next one, we will do pretty much the same thing, but I'm going to go a little higher. A little higher, just to the tips of the clouds. Soften that a fair amount. Then raise the gain there. Give us a little more pop out there. Oh, I like that. And then I can dial down the midtone details on those highlights to make the highlights softer. I love that. God, that's sick. I love this program. Oh, I can do this all day. Don't make me do this all day, because I'll do it all day. Moving on, what I can do is add a little style. So if we want to add a little color, we can push these midtones up to the purple reddish, because that's like that beautiful sunset kind of look. And then the highlights back to the teal to kind of balance those back to white, and then the shadow can be in the teal also. And we can raise the low range to see where that teal comes in. And these highlights also. Yeah, that's sick. Without it, with it. Without it, with it. Love it. Maybe get these highlights back down. Yep. Very good. And then on our last node, I really just want to bring all the highs up. Kind of mess with these shadows here. Bring these down. And that's just a really punchy sky. And now you guys can see it's like going off into awesome. We are taking off into awesome. That is what we're working with here. Boom. I love that. Very cool. Very cool. So, moving on. Now that we've got that figured out, I hope you guys learned something from that. I'm going to move on to this eye situation. So I'm just going to work in the same exact timeline. Move this over. I'm going to move this up and delete the audio. Alt, click, backspace. And then I will move this time-lapse footage right underneath, because it's the same exact concept we just used, but a little different. So first and foremost, I'm actually going to color correct this first. I'm going to add a LUT real fast. Bump this up. Push these down. Soften it a bit, because you can see some of the little skin imperfections. Boom. Then I can move on from here into our mask. And I'm going to go in and make just a circle, put that in the middle of my pupil, and push this down to match the size. I'll hit the highlight button so I can see what's going on. I'm going to decrease the softness. And alright, and then I'm going to go to these dots right here. And they're right to the right of the power window tab, and I'm going to go to convert to Bezier. That way it'll make this into a power window where the rest will stay the same, and I can change these dots independently of each other. So just a really simple way to reform. You know, if you need a perfect square but you just want one side to be off, then you can do that kind of thing. Makes it really easy. I like that. It should be good for now. Now I can soften this and push it towards the inside a little more. Then I'm going to go to the qualifier, and I'm going to get rid of my pupil and kind of the lower shadows of my eye. Yes. And as well, like the eyelashes that are hanging down up here. We definitely want to get rid of those. We can soften that. And denoise. Not too much. We can add a little blur even. Boom. So now I'm just going to go through and track this eye real fast. to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Anybody else addicted to Diet Coke or caffeine in general? Just curious. Alright, so I'll click back. We'll track back. So simple. I love Davinci. It's so awesome. And then if I right click, hit add alpha output, connect this, it still looks crazy. See, what the program's trying to do though is trying to take out everything that we don't have selected. So, you know, the power window we have selected. Now, could we just invert the power window? No, it still looks kind of crazy. What if we invert the power window and the qualifier? No, definitely not what we're going for. So all we need to do is go to the key output, which is right here in the key tab, key output, and then invert the entire node. And that gives us much closer to what we're looking for. Now if I try to match their color also, let's say I'm going to bring down the, actually I'm going to leave those at 0.2, and I'm going to bring up the saturation, give me a little more color. Then I'll come over to this clip, and what shall I do? I will desaturate this a good bit, and then I will come over to the, let's see, hue versus saturation, or hue versus luminance. That's what I'm looking for. And I'll click here, widen this out, and I'm going to bump the luminance up because that makes more sense to me. Yeah. And I can also soften this one, which will help with some of this noise we're getting. But really you won't notice that in a second. And then I'm going to take down some of the contrast. I know it always seems like we want more contrast, but this clip is going a little hard, so. Then back to the edit screen, and I'll click on the time lapse that's underneath the eye, and I'm going to shrink this down by coming down the zoom, because the more clouds I can fit into that eye, the cooler this will look, right? Boom, right there looks good. Now if I go down here, you should see that's really cool, really sick. There's a few more things I could do to my eye, but I think you guys get it. You guys are smart. You guys are smart. You guys get what's going on here, and if you guys ever need to use something like this, I trust that you would know how. Anyway, I hope you guys like this. If you did, just click the like button. And if you didn't, just click the like button. Just click the like button. And if you like more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe. I upload pretty often. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. I always reply. And as always, I'm Marcel, and this has been The Modern Filmmaker, and I will see y'all next time. Peace!